Hi, I'm Abby Uridi.
Denise Shooter.
Vanolia Eichwood.
Rhiannon Rowe.
Elizabeth Sison.
Lucy Carnelli. Okay, so we're going to start with the
Zingia reading.
the zinger burger.
The main points for me were just about the disparity within Australian schools between the financing and the funding. One thing that hit me was that we have the choice of school that we send our children to, but, where am I? We have the choice of what school we send our children to, but if we have no money or we live in a low socioeconomic area, we don't have as much choice. So the whole point of it was, you know, they're trying to promote choice, but some people don't have the choice. It doesn't matter. You know, they can live in Ivanhoe and they can live in Elstonwick, but not have the money to send their children to school.
Yep.
Australia has the highest percentage of non-government schools in the OECD, which I thought was surprising.
Yeah.
I really didn't think we would have that many.
Yeah.
I thought it would be somewhere like UK or Finland or Norway.
Yep.
But then it turns out that Finland actually has gone totally opposite way. They have like no private schools or very few private schools, and it's all government based. And for us going the other way, thinking, you know, making our schools private was going to make us top of the hit list. It's actually put us around the bottom, and Finland's, you know, right at the top. So whilst we all go, we want private schools and private education's great, it's actually not the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
Pretty crappy.
Yeah.
As a parent, what hits me reading the Zinger one is the funding that private schools get, and knowing I'm really happy with the school that my kids go to, which is the same school. But just in terms of this, they had to fight tooth and nail to get funding for some new classrooms about 2 years ago. They applied for funding for 6 classrooms, which is what they needed, but by the time the funding had come through, the government and local councils signed off on the builder that the school chose. The buildings were actually finished and move-inable. The students moved in. They actually needed 8 new classrooms because the school had grown so much. So we still got students who are in rundown, worn-out, portable buildings, and then you go, that's my child in that cold building with no heating in winter, no air conditioning in summer. And then around the time that all happened, you hear about that school over in the western suburbs end of last year. It closed the private school because it was over $400,000 in debt, and it was saying to the government, please help us. That made me really angry as a parent and as a teacher, because my kids are still in a school where they don't have enough resources, they don't have enough buildings, yet this private school was charging exorbitant fees. Where did their money go? And that for me is a real issue, as I said, as a parent and as a teacher. So that was what I really got out of the Zinger reading, was just how do we now address the balance and put that balance back, and jumping up and down. And us all saying we're angry about it isn't getting somewhere. We actually need to make a change.
And I think that leads into what is probably a joint point for both readings, is that the more things change, the more they say the same. So despite all the innovations and their talk and what everyone's been trying to do, education sort of success or results are still really, really strongly linked to the socio-economic status. And that is the main thing that hasn't changed, and that comes across in both readings. But did anyone see some clear suggestions of how to make that shift with any of the readings?
I just feel like everything, it's just like money. Money.
Exactly.
Like on the news last night, how Gillard was talking about, everything. I follow her on Twitter, and she's just like, education, and it's just like a big point at the moment. And yesterday they were talking about putting more money into private schools for, children with low socioeconomic. But then it's like, how much can you believe? But it seems like every time it's just like, we'll just give them more money.
And like the thing that
Is that going to fix it?
like, I'm not sure if this is like also what Gillard kind of was trying to do, but they were saying how like it's not just about handing out more scholarships in these private schools. Like that's not going to solve the problem. Like the problem is, like for me, I found, and this is what I really got angry with last night when I was like trying to like wrap this all up. I was like, I don't understand how these private or these independent schools, that call themselves independent, can charge these fees and still accept funding from the government, but they pick and choose who's allowed to come to their school.
That
And
shocked me.
even though they may seem open to everybody, their beliefs and their values, if they're not reflective of your own beliefs and values, and you kind of pretty much are told, well, this is our school, if you don't fit in or agree with what we do, then you leave. And it's like that they're not accepting taxpayers who have their same values, they're accepting every taxpayer's money, regardless of what they believe, if they're atheist, Christian, Muslim, have children, don't have children, whoever it is. So they'll take all the money, and put fees on top of that, and then these kids who are lucky enough to go to these schools get really good quality education. They have great resources, great teachers, everybody's supported. And then you've got the children that go to the public schools who, like you, are put into this portable classroom because for 6 years they've been trying to get some other classroom to be built that can give them like basic needs like warmth and shelter. Do you mean? Like,
Can I ask a question? Just like a bit of a general question. With public schools, like, or I don't even know if private schools do, but like, once a public school is full, does then there become a waiting list, or do they just accept everyone?
It depends.
I don't think it's ever full.
No, it depends.
It's zoning.
Because some places, not a lot of places left in Melbourne are zoned. I
Yeah.
used to live in Rowville, and we were a zoned area.
Don't forget, we've only got 10 minutes.
If my children were going to primary school, they had to go to the school that my council said because it was a zoned area. If I wanted them to go to a different state school, I had to get the principal of my zoned school to sign a letter to say he was happy to release my children from his zoned school so they could go to the other one.
Isn't that just ridiculous?
But
though?
no, in a lot of other areas, but the council do that in certain areas because they're trying to stop this school over here being overcrowded and trying to make this school from being, small. However, where I live now on the island, I'm not in a zoned area. The school that my children go to is sitting at 520 students. Yeah, on the other side of the island, at New Haven, there's New Haven Primary, which is another state school. They're sitting at just over 100 students. Now, I'm not told my children can't go to Cows, they have to go to the other one. It's my choice, and I'm happy with my choice. My kids are happy at the school. However, there is also a private school on the island. Now, we've worked out, I have 3 children, by the time they're in high school, I cannot afford to have my children go to that private college. Now, it's going to suit my youngest one to a T, and I might be able to get him into it.
Is this
Because it's
going to have
learning
to
cycle.
get to some other people
But
to make
I
a comment?
can't afford to have all 3 of them there. Yet, it doesn't necessarily mean that the education they would get there is any better.
True. They just might have more resources.
And that's all it has.
Do you want to say something about the?
I guess I just agree with everyone how, there's so many schooling differences, but it's still like no one's really doing much about it to make an impact, but it keeps on getting brought about, the points, but no one's really doing anything about it.
And it won't really change. I don't know, that's just my...
Yeah, I just feel like they just bring it up, put it in an article, and there you go, but it's like you're not doing anything to change it.
Yeah.
There is
Pointing
one-
out the issues.
There was one thing, the only thing I found in any of them to sort of pointing a little bit to where you can go is there was a quote somewhere saying that education that it's not about valorising other people's sort of class. It's actually about eradicating that class. So education that eradicates class is what's going to sort of equal a better result, rather than it's not just about saying, oh, well, you're working class and what can we say about you as a working class and valorising that. It's just to smooth it out. But we also probably need just to sort of say we do actually, we're getting into a discussion which is to us more interesting, but just the main points were probably about the possibility or the danger of education having the potential to intensify stratification of class. And even though Australia doesn't have class, it does have class, and there's that comes out in Zinger. Obviously, there's a class system, the same as in the English system in the other reading. And also that thing of sinks of disadvantage, that was a really clear thing that came through, wasn't it, about just the brain drain from one school to another.
And that's what
and
happens.
in both readings. That was
And it was also for Zingia, I really liked his reading because it kind of was spoke out to me. But it's we're just reproducing the existing social arrangements. Nothing is actually being done to change that. And I think it was also said, I think in the other reading, that it comes from care and political will to actually try to change that, which you know, maybe teachers feel like they're not really supported or there's not much that they can do.
Yeah.
Just sort of perhaps try to do what they can within their class, but
Yeah.
nothing gets done in the wider community.
It's like the issues are so massive. Like as a teacher, you know, like you're only one person, and you like there are these humongous issues with everything. Sort of like you want, like I guess all the teaching, what are they called, marches or whatever for the pay and everything. Like I guess they are banding together, but like these issues are so complex and so massive, and across Australia, like it's huge. But like I think something does need to be done, but it is massive issues. These ones. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard.
Definitely. Should we wrap this up?
Yep. Or should we? Do we need to talk about the other reading a bit more?
Well, that's
We're
what
on
I tried
10
to.
minutes,
I was
40.
trying to cover the other reading just quickly because we didn't. But I mean,
Yeah.
they both had this similar point. And
Yeah.
it was, you know, the English one about the English system was, you know, a lot more in depth, but it just again about
Yeah.
the perpetuating class.
Yeah.
You know, even using the education system to keep class
Yeah.
where they are. Yeah, that was a really big part of it. But, you know, the same thing of what do we do? How do we eradicate those levels of class that are dependent on not just money,
Yeah.
other stuff, you know, people's ideology, the way people identify themselves, and how do we get into that
Well,
to
the
change
little
that
kids-
system of
Yeah.
stratification?
Well, no, I was just going to say the little kids, like the stories about Tracy and Hannah, like, you know, how they're, you know, how they're only like, what, 10 and 11, and they're already like stressing about these tests and everything, and how they're scared they're going to be a nothing, but then they're like, you know, I really want to get a 5, but I'll probably only get a 2 or a 3, which is okay, but, you know, I'm still probably going to be nothing. Like, that is just obscene. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
at least get the kids thinking like that they can do it, and get them, you know, if you can get into their minds that this isn't what life has to be like, then I think that's...
It sort of is. That's the problem, isn't
I
it? So when
know.
they get out there, it actually is like that.
Yeah.
So this is
So
the
I just
difficulty.
think, but I just thought that was so sad, like that they actually think that way at such a young age,
Yeah.
and like to think how that affects them for the rest of their lives is just, it's, I don't know, it's really sad, I thought, and it really annoyed me.
Any wrap-up points from anyone?
I think we need to stop treating education like a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really
Yeah.
bugs me.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it's the fundamental, it's one of the core things that we need for the future of, you know, Australia and, you know, the rest of the world. And we treat it like a business.
And as
And
that
children
report
are a
said, we're worse.
commodity.
Yeah.
And we are not. Our children are not. My kids are
Yeah.
not some commodity that can be bought and sold according to how well they perform or don't perform. They're not bloody shares.
Yeah.
You know, this is their
Exactly.
future, and that pisses me off as a parent.
Yeah.
And it makes me angry as a teacher to think that I'm going to have to fight and fight and fight and fight and fight to change it.
Yeah.
And it also makes me really sad
Mm.
to think that
part of
that's
our
the
Yeah.
future,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm going to have to face, and that's what I'm going to have to come to terms with, and find some way to deal with it, because I personally do not think it's going to change in my career.
No,
Yeah.
It's really aggravating as well. Like yesterday on the news, how there was someone said, you know, it's, you know, we've been fighting for over a decade. You know, that's a decade of children that have just
Yeah,
you
they
know,
Through the system.
decade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
How
about
long?
them?
How much longer is it going to take? You know.
More children. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we saying our names one more time?
Oh,
or
that's
no?
okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Sorry, this was outside, but Monash had no free rooms.
Where's the
Hope they can